Today I am back in Chicago and I am driving the 2025 Hyundai Tucson. And this vehicle has been significantly refreshed for this model year, and I've already done a first look review of this vehicle. I will link to that above. So what I'm going to do in this video specifically is a tech check, because there is a lot of new and interesting tech on here. So let's take a closer look at this week's car du jour, the 2025 Hyundai Tucson. All right, since we are already pointed at the back of the vehicle, I want to start right here with this feature. And this is the smart trunk. So essentially, as you walk up to the back of the vehicle and you have the key fob in your pocket or in your purse or briefcase, wherever, the doors or the liftgate will automatically open for you. So if your hands are full, you can just walk up and kind of wait 3 seconds, and then you will have easy access to put your stuff in the back of the vehicle. Now, I really love this feature when I'm going to the grocery store, Costco, something like that, because very often I'm walking up to the back with my hands full. And just having the trunk open, huge thumbs up. However, I've noticed in my city garage, when I've backed in and I'm trying to unlock the back door to get into the garage and get around to the driver's seat, yeah, this opens before I can do any of that. Literally, while I'm just unlocking the door into the garage, the liftgate opens. So I will say you can turn this feature off if you don't want it, or if it is doing something annoying for you. And you know what? We're going to go inside. I'm going to show you how to turn that off, and we're going to look at some of the other technology we have going on in there. Oh, and you may have noticed this is a little bit high for me to reach. Thankfully, there's a button on the key fob. All I have to do is press and hold it, and it will come back down. I appreciate that. All right, so moving into the vehicle, obviously you have to turn it on to be able to access the settings. And once this head unit comes up, you simply go into your setup, you go into vehicle, you go into door, which is a little bit counterintuitive, and then you scroll up and you can see the smart liftgate icon right there, or text, and you can just turn it off. So like I said, I really typically love this feature, but if you back into your garage, if you are standing by the back of your car a lot and you don't want it to open, it could be a problem, and that's simply how you turn it off. Okay, now that we have this view, let's see what else is going on. So you essentially have this one long screen that goes from the driver cluster all the way over into the infotainment area. And you have a really swipeable screen over here. You do have Apple CarPlay, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then you have this 12.3-inch digital cluster here. And you know what? We're just going to dig into this for a minute, because this digital cluster is not very configurable. So again, you go into your settings, then you go into your cluster head-up display. So this does also, as a limited trim, have a head-up display, and you can change some of the things that you've got going on here. But I'll be honest with you, there is not a lot to change. So if you go into the cluster selection, theme selection, you can change your gauge style. So this is where we are right now on the classic, or you can go to simple. Classic, simple. I tend to prefer classic, actually. And then you can link it to your drive modes, or you can choose style A, B, or C. So A, B, C. So these are the drive mode settings. Let's just be clear. So if you link it to drive mode, and then you've got your drive modes right here, and you just kind of scroll through your drive modes, this should look very familiar. So I've just left it linked to the drive mode, and I've been driving in eco mode pretty much most of the time. So this does have a head-up display. I don't know if you can see that there, but I like it. It's adjustable. You can move it up, down, and tilt it a little bit. And you can also configure the things that are going to appear on there. So we have, or you can disable it. If you don't like the head-up display, you actually don't have to have it in there. But here are the things that you can look at that can go into your head-up display, including your turn-by-turn directions. And that's not only if you're using the native navigation system, but also if you are using Apple CarPlay. So all of that is good stuff. I will say this is a little bit disappointing because you really can't configure this too much. You do have some options in terms of what you put, pressing this button right here, put in the center area, and you can kind of scroll through and see some of those options. But yeah, to me, that's a little bit disappointing. You have this big, beautiful display, and you're not really doing anything with it. I will say a lot of Kia vehicles do that better. All right, what else do we have going on over here? So again, this is very swipeable, and I really like that. Let's look at the camera. So even in park, you can turn your camera on, and it will show you not only your this is my backup view and your around view, but you also have the option to change the view a little bit. It'll show you what's around you on the street. You can look to the front, look to the back, and yes, there are trucks in the city. So I like the fact that you can change the views a little bit, and when you put the vehicle into reverse, you also can still do a little bit of, you know, some views and some angles in terms of what you are looking at here. And then I like the delay. It stays on when you are going into drive. And again, you can adjust the views a little bit if you want to. But I really like this camera, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth later, because this, you know, this is bright outside. It, you know, it's clear and it's bright outside. You would expect that, but even when I'm backing into my garage, it also has a nice amount of brightness and clarity. So we'll revisit that. All right, what else do we have going on? You know, let's just take a quick look at these controls here. This has been redesigned a little bit for the 2025 model year, and the designers really wanted to give you some more knobs and buttons for things that you more frequently touch. So volume knob, tuning knob, now, and you have your climate knob. But you do still have to use your touch points for your fan speed. You have heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, all things that I really like. And then you have some more buttons right here for your drive modes, your camera, hill descent control, and auto hold. Okay, so do you know what auto hold is? I don't particularly love this feature, but I know a lot of people do. And this is showing up in a lot of cars today. And essentially, when you engage this feature, if you look in the digital cluster, you see auto hold. And essentially what that means is when you are driving, if you come to a stop, it will hold your brake. So you can tap your foot on the brake and then let your foot off of the brake. And the vehicle will still be braked, and it will only stop braking when you put your foot on the accelerator pedal. So it's not a feature I typically engage, but I know a lot of people like it, and especially in EVs, people do use that a lot for one pedal driving. So I don't know. It's a thing, and you can engage it or disengage it here. What else do we have going on? You know, I do want to talk a little bit, not about that, but about this, the gear shift. The gear shift used to be, well, I won't say used to be. This is the OG location for gear shifts. They were always on the steering column. Then they started to move them here, and now they're starting to move them back to the steering column. And what that does is it frees up a lot of space here for you to store things. You know, I really like this floating console with this extra storage here. I like the repositioning of the wireless charger. And, you know, I like the space it frees up by putting the gear shift on the steering column. I know a lot of younger people don't like it, but this is not new. This is not new. What is new, however, can be a little bit of the operation of it, because unlike the old column shifters, you don't have to push it or move it up or down. Instead, it's literally the end of this that puts it into gear. So, you know, to put it into drive, you twist it away from you. To put it into reverse, you twist it towards you, and to put it into neutral, you just kind of give it a little bit of a half turn. So like if you're in drive, you know, just give it a half turn towards you. And then to put it into park, you just hit that button there. So I don't know. I mean, I will say the one thing that has taken me to get used to with this gear shift is the idea that in order to drive, you twist it that way. And I know that seems really logical because you're kind of twisting it forward and then you're moving forward. So you're moving in the direction of the twist. But in most cars, in order to put it into drive, especially like if you're driving a manual transmission, you're shifting it towards you to go forward. So this is very logical. And when I'm looking at the video, I'm like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. But in actuality, it's a little bit counterintuitive, and it is something you have to get used to because most American cars are opposite to this. All right, I do want to dig into Apple CarPlay a little bit, so let's check that out. Now, one of the tech features I really like on the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid is going to be the, wireless Apple CarPlay. I think it does a really good job of filling out this 12.3-inch screen, and because I'm recording while I am using Apple CarPlay, it's going to be a little bit laggy, but just know that this is not laggy. I like the Apple Maps. I like how your directions for Apple Maps will show up in your behind the wheel cluster as well as in your head-up display. And so let's see, we'll go ahead and hit home. Go. And then you can see maybe in the head-up display, you've got the directions that pop up there. So I like the integration of the Apple CarPlay, the Apple Maps. I like the integration of the podcasts. And I'm also a really huge fan of just the overall usability of this feature. Again, it's laggy because I am recording while I am touching the screen. But wireless Apple CarPlay, new for 2025, gets a huge thumbs up. All right, now that we have gone through some of the controls and the digital technology on the center stack and with the gauge cluster, I'm going to take you on the highway because there are a couple more things that I want to talk about, and you kind of got to do it while you're in motion. All right, now that we are on the highway, let's dig into that feature that I really like, and that is going to be the blind view monitor. So when I activated my left turn signal, you could see there is a camera view in the behind the wheel cluster that popped up, just kind of showing me what was going on in my blind spot to ensure that everything is clear. I feel like this is really great on a highway, especially in merging situations, because sometimes you have like this much space to merge, and it's like, okay, yep, I got space to do that. But I also find it to be particularly helpful in a city environment when you are, say, getting ready to make a right turn. You activate your right blinker and the camera image pops up on your right side. Well, in a city with bike lanes, you want to make sure that there is nobody in the bike lane before you move into it. So every little sight line helps, and I just feel like once you get used to it, it makes the overall vehicle a lot safer and gives you more visibility and a better idea of what's going on around you. More visibility, to me, is always better. All right, since we are on the highway, let's also talk about adaptive cruise control. There is going to be a button on your steering wheel, and when you hit it, it will automatically engage the speed you are currently going. If you want to go faster, there's a little button below that has a plus and a minus associated with it, so you can go up to add more speed, you can go down to decrease your speed, but you can control your speed from the steering wheel rather than speeding up and resetting your cruise control. You can also control the distance between you and the car in front of you, so adaptive cruise control essentially puts you at a steady speed, but if you come up on a vehicle that is going slower than you are going, the vehicle will automatically slow you down. So you can set your comfort level of how close you could be to the vehicle in front of you by the distance control. I tend to like a little more distance, especially when I'm traveling faster, but if I'm going a little bit slower, I'll decrease the distance because I feel like I have a little more control and a little more reaction time. There's also lane keep assist, another button on the steering wheel, and you can activate that or deactivate that depending on your preference. But adaptive cruise control is not dependent upon whether or not you have your lane keep assist active. So I like the fact that this is customizable and it has natural acceleration and deceleration, so it's not herky-jerky. We're coming up on somebody right now who's going slower than me, and the vehicle just naturally kind of slowed down. So I think this is a good system. It goes all the way to a stop. It's got stop and go capabilities, and it's really good in long drives on a highway. It's also really good in traffic jams. This is not a hands-free system. You've got to keep your hands on the wheel, and there's a camera right here that is monitoring your eyes to make sure you're paying attention. So I like this system. I think it gives you the right amount of control, and it can be defatiguing when used in the right way. All right, now that I am back in Chicago, I am going to touch on 2 additional tech features. Well, it's more like revisit one and then talk about a new one. So the feature that I want to revisit is going to be my backup camera. And you can see that even though my alley is dark, you have some really good clarity in terms of what is going on in the camera. And it looks really bright. And here, even as I am backing up into my space, into my darker garage, you have some really good brightness that is happening, showing you what is going on. Now, I mean, this is a little less tricky because my neighbor isn't home at the moment, but it does show you like how close I am to the edge here. I like the fact that it has the audible alert as well. And I don't know, the other thing that popped up, I don't know if you noticed it, is this little guy right here that again shows like how close I am to things, either in the corner, on the side, and it mimics kind of what's going on right here. So it gives you multiple ways to look at how close you are to things as you are backing up or moving around a space. So I was sick of the beeping, so we shut off the beeping. So I hit the button down here. It shows again the camera views and the angles, the clarity, the brightness, the dynamic guidelines, and again you can see the camera view options to change. But my point here is the fact that it is still really clear even when I'm backing up into a darker space. That's super helpful. It's super helpful for somebody who backs into spaces all of the time, night and day. All right, now this last tech feature I want to talk about is arguably the coolest, and that is going to be Smart Park. I particularly love it in a city environment because I am very often parking in very narrow, tight spaces, and I'm not able to get in or out of the vehicle once I park. So being able to pull the vehicle out a little bit to get in and out of the vehicle and then shove it in its space gets a huge thumbs up for me. Now, this demonstration is going to be slightly less spectacular today because my neighbor isn't home, but this is still a really cool feature. So in order to activate it, you have to make sure the vehicle is locked, and then you have to press and hold the remote start button. And once the lights start blinking, that means the vehicle is on. Now, because this is a hybrid, you can't hear the engine, but I can hear the electric motor. It is on. So now what you have to do is you go to the buttons on the side of the key fob, and we are just going to pull the vehicle out of the space. So as you can see, we're walking. Now it sensed me, so it stopped. You'll notice I did not stop pressing the button. So it does have sensors. It's not going to hit anything. Similarly, you can put it back into the space by pressing a button on the key fob. There you go. I just think this is probably one of the coolest features that is available on any vehicle. So you know what? There you go. I'm just going to leave this review right here because why not end on a high note? That is what I have for you in this week's tech check of the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid. I'll see you next time with a new car du jour.